Almost.
Hi.
Come on in. A couple more seats down here as well.
Thank you.
Yeah,
Hello. Hi.
All right. Thank you everybody for coming this evening to share this special moment with us. I would like to share a quick story about John. This story begins with a small cannon. Has anybody heard this story yet? I'm sure he could tell it way better. However, he wanted to set off this cannon. So he gathered up his supplies, pushed it inside of the cannon, and lit it, just outside the Royal Bank.
I was there.
during a bomb scare at the Oasis Hotel.
So the RCMP were in town, and they heard it go off as well, or whatnot. So they were looking for the accomplice who did this. Guess who it was? Of course it was John. What did they make John do with his poor little cannon? They made him fill it with cement. Right, John?
No. It was supposed to be lead,
Oh, wow.
but it was mostly sand with a little bit of solder on top.
That's right. So where is this cannon today, John? Is it still at home?
Yeah, it's in the basement.
Saving.
John moved to Cache Creek in 1972, where he raised his children with his wife, Carmen. In 1990, he ran in a municipal election where he was elected mayor of the village of Cache Creek. John was a passionate, knowledgeable, and dedicated leader for over 28 years. Even though the landfill officially closed in December 2016, John focused on the landfill extension long before this closure happened. And hopefully very soon we'll see this extension open. And also helped our community become debt-free, one of the only debt-free municipalities in the province. Just before the election in 2011, I ran into John and I ran by him, should I run for council? He encouraged, supported, and guided me through this process, and I was elected. For him, I'm grateful. At the council table, John was always respectful and open to ideas, and at times we did not always agree, but most of the time we could agree to disagree at times. I enjoyed the 2 terms I spent with John on council, and I'm happy to say I genuinely value his dedication to our community. At my first UBCM, I quickly felt overwhelmed and not sure how the process worked. John took me under his wing and helped me understand the resolution process, introduced me to fellow politicians and government leaders, some of them I still talk to daily. I want to thank John for the years of service and the time, knowledge, and respect you have given to me personally. A quote I found that I feel says John to a T, "You gain strength, courage, and confidence by every experience in which you really stop to look fear in the face. You must do the thing you cannot do." By Eleanor Roosevelt.
Good afternoon and welcome everyone. It's nice to see everyone here to thank Mr. Ranta for many years of service. It was not always an easy task, but John steered us through some of our best times and some of our worst times. I would like to read an editorial from NL Radio that was broadcast in July 2017. We once read a piece in the Los Angeles Times which declared, "Staying calm under pressure tells you a great deal about a leader." So said an old parable, anybody can hold the helm when the sea is calm. We want people with vision who are articulate, who demonstrate passion, who have the community's interests at heart, but also one who can be decisive, professional, and calm when a crisis arises. Which brings us to a couple of leaders at the forefront of this year's wildfire crisis in British Columbia that is causing so much dislocation, grief, and anxiety, particularly in the southern and central interior. Cache Creek Mayor and Thompson-Nicola Regional District Chair John Ranta and his counterpart Al Richmond exemplify these traits in the face of wildfires that spread at lightning speed, destroyed many homes and properties, and forced more than 14,000 from their homes. Yes, there has been loss, the fires are still out of control, but the leadership from Richmond and Ranta, that's the calm amidst the storm, which will help everyone get through this. I think we all felt that. Well known across our province, John Ranta, led the,
It's okay, call me anything. Whatever it is, I've been called worse.
John John Ranta led the village of Cache Creek as mayor for 28 years. These years included 3 recent major natural disasters. The Cache Creek 2015 flood, where nearly 1/3 of homes in the community were damaged or destroyed. The Cache Creek 2017 spring flooding, in which our dear fire chief Clayton Cassidy lost his life. And the 2017 Elephant Hill wildfire, which grew to 200,000 hectares and lasted for several months. As mayor, he also served as TNRD director for 26 years, including TNRD chair for 8 of those. As the TNRD chair, he was the spokesperson for the North Thompson wildfire of 2003 and the Elephant Hill wildfire of 2017, where he led multiple information meetings across the region and conducted thousands of media interviews. I personally have known John since 2002 when I moved to Cache Creek and went to work for the Ashcroft Cache Creek Journal. For as long as I've known him, he has been a passionate promoter of Cache Creek. Whether he was speaking to individuals, groups, or to media, I can tell you firsthand that a journalist appreciates a politician who will answer their questions. John did that, often at great length. John's media name, Senator Foghorn, was well earned. An avid spokesperson for his home community of Cache Creek and indeed all of rural BC. John served on the Union of BC Municipality Executive for many years and as president of UBCM in 1999-2000. He always spoke up for the unique needs of rural residents and communities. One thing he and I often talked about was the Cache Creek landfill. In its heyday, the landfill employed over 100 local people and provided a stable economic base for Cache Creek. John worked tirelessly to maintain and grow the landfill and finally to find a replacement for it. He renegotiated tipping fees with GVRD, what we know as Metro Vancouver now, traveled constantly to Vancouver for meetings, even conducted tours of the site while it was open for groups such as the provincial communities and Bloom judges. The renegotiated fees helped the town become one of the very few debt-free municipalities in BC and created the Landfill Legacy Fund, which the town uses to purchase major capital works by borrowing money from the fund and then paying it back over time, thus avoiding bank fees. The fund has helped the village pay for 5 road constructions, a major sewage treatment plant upgrade, a new water treatment plant, the visitor information center, a new fire truck, and more over the years. John worked full-time through most of his years on local government as a Greyhound bus driver, often using his personal and holiday time for local government duties and events. His vision of Cache Creek was one where families would have good jobs, schools, and all of the amenities enjoyed by their city counterparts while enjoying the benefits of small town life. As mayor, he pursued funding for a paved walking path around Cache Creek Recreation Park, presided over the development of Gateway Park at the main intersection of Highway 1 and 97, and was adamant in the creation of more sidewalks throughout the town to enhance the safety and easier access for families and elders. He also successfully pushed to have free swimming at the pool and free use of the gym in the community hall, that these services could be affordable to some and unaffordable for others just seemed wrong to him. Thank you, John Ranta. You have certainly left your mark on Cache Creek. Your vision and hard work has made our town a better place for everyone.
For you. In appreciation of your years of service. Where do you want me to do this, Wendy?
You're already out of bounds.
Okay, a little closer there.
I'll come over here. How's
We'd
that?
like to give you this token of our appreciation.
Well, thank you very much. Thank you to council and the people of Cache Creek. You know, when I first came up with the idea of running for mayor, I was at the Oasis Hotel pub. So it might not have been the best founded idea, but most of you will know Jim Smith owned the Oasis Hotel, and Jim Smith's picture is up there as a former mayor of Cache Creek. And so I went to Jim Smith and said, "Hey, Jim, I'm thinking of running for mayor. And he said, "Good idea." And he always wore a fedora. And he grabbed his fedora off the table next to him, put it on his head and said, "Come with me." And he owned that Oasis Plaza that's all boarded up there. And there was one empty store. And he walked down to the Oasis Plaza and opened it up and said, "Here's the key. Put a sign in there." And I can tell you that without the support of people like Steve, without the support of people like Jim Smith and many others over the years, I would not have been able to become the mayor or do the job that I was able to do, because you do the job of mayor with the support of the community, with the support of the larger community, and that's so important. I must have lost some over the years somewhere along the line, but that's okay. That's okay. All we can suggest is that we give His Worship Tellerico and Annette and Lisa and who else have we got? Oh, Sue. There's got to be one more somewhere.
Wendy.
All I can do is encourage you to support the council as it's presently constituted. You're not all going to agree with all the decisions they make. You don't have to agree with all the decisions they make. But if you don't agree, make your thoughts known to council. That's what they're there for. They run for office in order to represent you. And I can think of no greater honor than to have been elected mayor here. I moved here in '72. I got elected in 1990. So it was 18 years. I got to know enough people, had a couple of parties at my place, and got to know enough people in the community to get elected. And I've never been so humbled than to represent the good people of Cache Creek. I think you folks are wonderful people, and it's been a great honor to have served you. We're having a little get-together at the house. My house, if you know where it is. If you don't know, you can't come. But we're having a get-together at my house after this. You're all more than welcome to come. I used to do that at the pub, and that's why the parties got so big, because it used to be busy down there. But you're all welcome to stop by, and we've got some food and drinks if you want. And I just want to thank council for the kindness of thanking me for a few years of time spent in that chair over there. No, that's a different chair. You bought a new chair. Well, it's not the same one I had.
He has it raised a little higher.
Oh, is that okay? In any event, thank you very much for the support over the years. And I look forward to speaking with all of you at some point in the future as a lay person. Thank you.
Thank you.
That's very kind. Thank you all.
We love you, John.
I'm sure there's a couple people in the room that would like to say a few things also for John. I know people travel here to say a few things, so. Those of you that
You trying to block
would like to
Sally?
speak,
I was weighing my options.
Isn't that nice? The Bonaparte brought me a gift.
Nice. Very nice.
Hey, Sally.
Hi. When I walked in, I made a crack about being invited to a celebration of life. And and I really mean it. Like, quite frankly, we live in a world where we rarely say nice things about people until after they're gone. And I don't think it's fair. I don't think it's right. So I'm actually going to say nice things about John today.
Oh my goodness.
I've known, yeah, mark that down, would you? I've known John since he was blonde, and so was I. And, you know, it's been a very, very long time. We used to make jokes and tell people that we used to sleep this far apart. We lived in the Cache Creek apartments and we're neighbors. And believe me, the walls probably aren't that far apart. I want you to know how good a talker John is. He actually got me signed up as a liberal.
Hang your head in shame.
Oh, yes, indeed. But I believed in John, and I was willing to sacrifice a little bit of my soul for him. And I got my soul back, thank you. And I ran for the TNRD director position in 2002. And with John's guidance, I really found a good footing in local government. And I think in local government, we are in a position to listen to everybody that we know. And I know John did that here in Cache Creek. I know I tried very hard to do it in my area. And John has always been a very good leader and a good friend. And he has wonderful taste in women because they produce some of the most beautiful children I've ever seen. And have managed to be good citizens, not just leaders in the community. So thank you, John.
Thank you, Joe.
Anyone else like to say anything?
Oh, I'll say something.
Steve is the only guy I know that talks about as much as John does at things.
It's been an interesting journey, and of course I was very fortunate to sit as next to John as vice chair. And what became very apparent very early in that little honor was that this man was not only a consummate professional, but to just watch the way he sort of could multitask and keep everybody sort of relaxed. And there's 26 of us directors, and we're not a relaxed group of people, to be honest with you, and stuff like that. We're pretty intense and want to get things done. But John was easy to come off the tongue, a joke or two, and sort of calm the crowd when need be. And then when it really needed to be calmed, like some loud voices came in, he could pound that gavel pretty damn good. And to his, for me, it's very comforting. In fact, when we're having a water meeting, and I think it was a water meeting in Spence's Bridge. Anyways, Spence's Bridge is the only town in the TNRD where we actually call the RCMP to ask them to stand at the back of the room while we're having our meeting. I believe that still holds true to this day. So our CAO, Mr. Gill, asked me if I'd like to have John come down and chair that meeting. And after I had been sort of lambasted and chairing the previous 3 meetings and stuff like that, trying to hold the house in order, and I said, absolutely, that'd be awesome and stuff like that. So John came traipsing down to Spence's Bridge with Suk and myself, and the meeting, as usually does, got out of control when a lady at the back of standing at the back of the room was screaming at you, John, you're and John started talking back, and then she's screaming a little louder, and John's talking back a little louder, and finally, it was getting pretty intense in there, and John did one of his whistles. I'll tell you what, the room went silent, and the lady, of course, then really laid into him and stuff like that. But it was always that strong-handed approach that he knew when it needed to sort of calm the crowd down and stuff like that. And I think that's a skill that you can learn, but it's not an easy one. And what I learned sitting next to John was, you know what? You've got to sort of be firm, but you got to be funny, and you got to have a little bit of fun, because politics, for the most part, is not a hell of a lot of fun. Being on the front lines and a foot soldier, you get the bad emails, the bad phone calls, and but you get the good too. And you got to grasp the good and let the bad sort of fall off your shoulders and stuff. And I think John was able to do that, and that's why he was so successful for so long. So I learned a lot. And those couple of years sitting next to John and the vice chair, I learned a lot more. So I enjoyed those times, and I appreciate our friendship and all the people that you've touched, and hopefully this will happen again at some point in time where I can use these tools to my advantage, because I'm still learning. It's a tough job. It's a tough job. I've been there 7 years and I still think I'm on the tip of the iceberg and things like that. But John, thank you for what you've given me over those times I spent with you, and I appreciate, you know, everybody coming out here and giving me their
I was going to stand back here and hide myself in the corner, but anyways, it's been 40 years since I come here. It's 40 years since I became a taxpayer. I was there for 2 or 3 years, and then back in 90 or 91. But I was a waterman for Ashcroft. I'm still a waterman. And besides that, I'm chair of the Bonaparte Watershed Society. And in the course of 20 years that I've been associated with it, Cache Creek has always been open to our invitations and suggestions. Now you've got a viewing platform down there. We've used the hall on numerous occasions, and it was always help yourself. You got to appreciate that for John and his counsel of the day, and I would say thank you from the society.
We got a chatty crew here.
I'll be brief. That's what you always want to hear politicians say. I'll be brief. I think the relationship between Ashcroft and Cache Creek over the years, there's been a bit of sibling rivalry there. I'll be the first to admit it. There's been some good-natured ribbing and teasing, but as with all siblings, you can tease your sibling. Anyone else tries that stuff, it's not going to wash. And it's always been great to know that no matter what happened with our two communities, we're always there to have each other's backs. Knowing that we have that kind of a relationship with the community just down the road is so reassuring. It's been wonderful to see the way the communities have pulled together. It was great to see the respect with which John was held whenever I went to UBCM or SILGA or at the TNRD, the way he still talked about with respect. Steve mentioned he's a professional, consummate professional. He's done a lot for this town and for this region. We all owe him a huge debt of gratitude, so thank you so much for your years of dedicated service. It couldn't have been easy, but we were glad you were here.
I guess we saved the best for last. I just got a short.
Just because you got a new fire truck.
I just want to thank John for the ongoing support that he has shown for the fire department throughout the years. From the new fire hall and engine in 1994 to the tragedies of 2017, and culminating with the new crew cab and engine that now grace our hall. You always had the communities as well as our members' safety in mind. I am happy to say that we had a great working relationship, and I'm proud to call you my friend. On behalf of the entire crew, past and present, we tip our helmets to you on a job well done. Thanks again, John, and best wishes for the future.
Anybody else? Last call?
There's
There's the phone.
There you go, Lisa.
Hi,
Sorry.
Should I make this quick? Now, John has some of these great long-winded speeches. I love them. They're great. I miss them. So maybe sometime you come down to my place, we'll talk about it. So I've been cutting grass in town for the last 32 years. And moving away from the coast is probably the best move I ever made. Come to Cache Creek to meet all the people that live here, just fabulous. I enjoy talking with people. I get that from my mom. Thanks, Mom! And I really enjoy living in Cache Creek. And all the faces I see here today, we've had some times together, and it's been great. John, thanks for spearheading a lot of those operations that made this town work.
It had nothing to do with the floods or the firemen.
There's some treats over on the side and some coffee. Please help yourself. Thank you very much for coming.
Don't trample the people sitting in front of them.